Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Daily Red Devil for all of your latest Manchester United transfer news and talk. And as always, we're back with another massive show to bring you all this morning. But before we jump into that, please do smash a like on the video. Please do subscribe to the channel if you're new. And let's get straight on into it. So on the show this morning, of course, we will be talking a little bit about the game last night. I'll be giving you my thoughts on it. We'll be discussing where do we go from here. We'll try and take some positives from it. Obviously, I'll give you a fair evaluation from how I saw the game. We'll also be talking a bit about Andre Onana. Is there an issue with him? Do we need to be concerned about that? I'm sure a lot of you in the chat would say yes. We're going to talk about that. We're also going to talk a little bit about the takeover as well and have a conversation about whether the recent run of poor results might actually encourage the Glazers to sell. That's a conversation we'll be having a little bit later on in the show. As always, do get involved in the live chat. Do get involved in the comment section. Let me know your thoughts on everything we discuss on today's show. So let's start out with the game last night. Let's talk a little bit about Andre Onana. He was awful is the simple way of saying it. Like that first goal, I don't even think like Sunday League teams would let in that first goal. Like it was terrible. But you know what? He came out after the game. Apparently he demanded to do a TV interview. Okay, he wasn't asked to. He demanded, and you know I do respect that. I do. I think that's something that a lot of our players have shied away from. I remember was it Liverpool last season when we got battered and Maguire refused to come out. And there's been a couple of instances where our players have refused to do interviews after bad games, right? So I do respect Onana for coming out and speaking to the press. Let's go through what he says really, really quickly. He says, shit happens in life. That mistake cost us the victory. So he blames the whole loss on himself. He also says that, where is he? Here he is. He says, to be honest, I have to look back at what happened. Mistakes are part of the game. I'm happy with the team. We worked hard today. I have to assume responsibility. We lost because of me. It's time to accept it. I am a big man. Or we are big men. So he's taking the full responsibility for the game. The full responsibility for the game. And you know what? I have a lot of respect for him for that. I do. I think for him to come out after the match and to take all of the blame himself, I think that was... I mean, it wasn't all his fault, was it? It was one goal. The other 3 goals weren't his fault, necessarily. So, I don't know. I still respect him for doing it, but I guess if you want to be really, if you really want to argue the point, if he had have saved that first shot, then it would have finished 3-3. But then you could say if the stupid penalty wasn't given, it would have finished 3-3. If Eriksen scored in the first half when he had like a shot from about 5 yards out, it would have been 4-4. You know, there's so many different bits where you could pin the blame on different players. So I'm not going to sit here and say we lost the game because of Onana, because I think that would be stupid. So we didn't lose it specifically because of him. He made a bad mistake. We conceded a goal. There was still 70 minutes left of the match. There was still plenty of time to come back and win the match. But I do respect him a lot for coming out and admitting his mistake, owning it. That's a trait that I like, and I think that's a trait that a lot of these Manchester United players don't have. When you think of people like Maguire coming out, I mean, if that was Harry Maguire, right? I don't want to go on about Maguire too much, but if that was Maguire, he'd probably come out and say, I don't need to prove myself, you know? Because that's what he said before, isn't it? When people have said, what does it mean to be a Manchester United player? How do you take the criticism and all the rest of it? And he just comes out and says, oh, I don't need to prove myself to anybody. That's more what Harry Maguire would say. So I do have respect for Onana for doing this. Let me know what you think. Do you think this is... The thing is, though, I will say, right, Onana has always kind of been the type of player to speak to the press. He's always been quite open. So this isn't like the first time he's ever spoke to the press. So it is kind of a regular thing. He then goes on to say, I'm the one who let the team down. I owe it to the fans to improve. This is my worst game ever. And he also then goes on to say that he says that my start in Manchester United has not been so good. Today is one of my worst games ever. It was a big opportunity for us to bounce back from the pressure we're facing, but it's tough. We have to be together. So he's taking all of the blame. Fair play to him, to be honest, you know. So anybody in the chat saying he's not good enough, all the rest of it, well, he says he's not good enough himself. So I respect that a lot, to be honest. I do, because he knows that none of the fans are going to be happy with what they've seen so far. I had people messaging me yesterday saying, you know, well, look at David De Gea when he first came in. There's a big difference, though, if you actually think about it, right? David De Gea came in as a 19-year-old from Atletico Madrid, the first time ever playing in a club outside of Atletico Madrid. He was underweight, he was skinny, he was pretty much underdeveloped, physically, David De Gea. And he got bullied in that first season at Manchester United as a 19-year-old. This is Andre Onana, who's 27. He's in his prime. He's just come off the back of a Champions League final with Inter Milan. He's already a full national team player. He's been playing for a very long time. He's played for Ajax, Inter Milan. So I don't really think it's comparable to be like, oh, well, David De Gea wasn't very good in his first season. I mean, there's an 8-year gap and probably years and years of experience between the two players. So I didn't really think that comparison was very fair. He's played over, hundreds and hundreds of matches at the professional level, Andre Onana, and mistakes like that should never happen. But at least he's come out and owned it. So I'm going to kind of leave it at that. I'm not going to belittle him anymore because he's owned his mistake. We can all say that he played poorly. He did play poorly, but at least he's come out. He spoke to the press. Remember as well, he wasn't asked to speak to the press. He demanded that he spoke to the press. He did a TV interview and he took all of the criticism himself, which I think is a little bit unfair, but let's hope that he bounces back from it. Let's hope that in the next few games he looks unbelievable. I want to see him get a clean sheet, really. I just want to see him build up the confidence because we haven't got a clean sheet. Well, we got one on the first game of the season, didn't we? But that one, debatably, he should have given away a penalty, shouldn't he? So I want to have a game where Onana comes out really well, gets a clean sheet, and everyone says, great, he's done a really, really good game. That's what I want. Whether that will happen or not, we'll have to wait and see. But obviously, we've got Burnley on the weekend. I want you guys to let me know what your score predictions are for the Burnley match as well. Let me know in the comment section. Let me know in the live chat. I'll read out a couple of your questions quickly. Fred says, what's the cost going to be for a world-class goalkeeper following his Farkashal show? I think that's a little bit dramatic to say that we need to replace the goalkeeper already. I don't think we need to replace the goalkeeper. You've got to give him at least the whole season and then see how he is at the end of the season. Obviously, we do have this outside Bayindir guy on the bench. So if it gets really bad, if he keeps making terrible mistakes, I'm sure Erik ten Hag will switch him out for Altay Bayindir. Obviously, you have to remember that he's probably going to go off to the Africa Cup of Nations in January, Onana. So there will be a period this season where we will have a different goalkeeper, and maybe this Altay Bayindir guy comes in and is unbelievable and then holds down the spot. We'll have to wait and see. I do still go by my old point, though, that we should have just kept David De Gea and maybe got Onana as well, but just kept David De Gea for one more season. But it is what it is, isn't it? Pablo says, were you expecting a Man United win? I wasn't expecting us to win. I thought that we could get a draw there. I'll be honest with you, though, right? Bayern Munich weren't very good last night. I don't think so. I think they weren't much better than we were. But they hit the post twice. They should have beaten us it should have been 5 or 6 goals. I think, personally. The penalty, yes, was a little bit dodgy. They hit the post twice. Onana did pull off some good saves in the second half. It could have been a lot worse than what the scoreline was, in my opinion. So, overall, I think that if Bayern Munich were on their day, if it was a Manchester City in full flow, we would have got battered last night. Because I think we were really poor across the whole pitch. Yes, we got some goals back. All of the goals were relatively dodgy, though, weren't they? We weren't very convincing for much of the game, I don't think. Let's see what people say. Al says we should have kept Matis Kovar. He was free from the youth academy and was earning 10 grand a week. Yeah, I agree, to be honest. Malp says Onana has conceded 15 goals in 5 matches. That's extremely worrying. Yeah, I mean, that is a concern, isn't it? 15 goals in 5 matches. That is terrible. That's like a team that would be at the bottom in that relegation, isn't it? That's like 3 goals a game on average? Yeah, that's really poor. Really, really poor. But he'll know that, Is that right? Has he got 4? No, so he's got 4. He's conceded 14 goals. 14 goals in 5 matches. Still, it's very poor, isn't it? It's pretty much 3 goals a game. But obviously, we've got this massive game against Burnley on Saturday. And we have to win that game. I don't know what happens if we lose that game to Burnley, to be honest. Because if we lose to Burnley, that'll be 5 losses out of our first 6 matches. I mean, that is terrible. Burnley are literally bottom of the league, I think, or second bottom. They've got 1 point. Their only point was against Nottingham Forest, I think, wasn't it, in a draw? They got battered by Tottenham, battered by Man City, battered by Aston Villa. We have to go out and beat Burnley. We do. We have to. If we don't, I don't know what happens then. I mean, I've said to you guys many, many times before, I'm not going to be sat here saying Erik ten Hag out. I think it's pointless. I think until you get new owners, until you actually have a playing style that Manchester United's known for, until you have a proper director of football and all the rest of it, I think sacking the manager is pointless. I really do, because you're going to bring in a manager, and what kind of manager are you going to bring in? We don't have a style. So who do you bring in, You bring in somebody who then has to start trying to form a style again from the beginning, the same as what Erik ten Hag's trying to do. If Erik ten Hag had been here for a couple of years, right, he gets us starting to play a certain style of football and then it doesn't work out, then yeah, maybe you get rid of him and you bring in somebody who's similar to Erik ten Hag by way of how they play, because you know that that's how Manchester United are then going to identify by way of tactics, by way of style going forward. Does that make sense? I just wanted to touch on something else as well about Scott McTominay. There's a clip circulating? Yeah, circulating, that's the right word, isn't it? There's a clip circulating on Twitter this morning of Scott McTominay, right? So, honestly, it's an absolute disgrace. So within 10 minutes of Scott McTominay coming on the pitch, right, he loses the ball pretty much on the box of Bayern Munich. So right up the pitch. He loses the ball, and then he literally doesn't even bother to try and get it back. He's literally just walking after him, and the player's just running off. He doesn't even chase him. He's meters away. An absolute disgrace. And do you know who comes back and defends it? Bruno Fernandes, the player who a lot of people criticise and all the rest of it. Bruno runs back from literally the same position and manages to defend the ball. Absolute disgrace. And he did exactly the same thing against Brighton. He did. And I just don't understand how these people are still in our team. I don't. And I don't understand how certain people of the fan base support and back up people like Scott McTominay. Is it because they're from the youth academy? I mean, I literally couldn't. I don't want to say I couldn't care less, but if they're not good enough, just because they're from Manchester, well, they're not even. He's not even from Manchester, is he? He's Scottish. Just because he's from the youth academy, like, doesn't mean that we can give him a free pass. And I think that some people in the fan base do think like that, you know. And it's just like it's gone past the point of being a joke anymore. He disappears in matches. I don't know why Eric Ten Hag brought him on, to be honest with you. I will criticise Eric Ten Hag for that. Bringing on Scott McTominay in a game like that last night was a very strange decision. I think that, you know, someone like Hannibal would have been better. At least he shows a bit of motivation, a little bit of care. Whereas Scott McTominay, he's never been good enough, but for some reason now he thinks he can come on the pitch, right, and doesn't have to track the ball back after he's lost it. I mean, that's a disgrace in the midfield position. Absolute disgrace. But yeah, let me know if anybody else noticed that. Obviously, it's all over Twitter this morning. Do you know what's funny as well? The funny thing is about this Scott McTominay video, there's somebody on Twitter, and the referee is genuinely running faster than Scott McTominay. So a professional athlete who's paid, what, £50,000 to £100,000 a week for Manchester United, the referee's jogging back to, you know, obviously to, you know, to watch the game, and Scott McTominay is behind the referee. He's running that slowly. Like, it's an absolute disgrace, it is. Let's see what people are saying in the comments section. Al says McTominay is great for Scotland. What's the issue? Mate, Maguire's great for England. You know? International football is completely different to Champions League football, isn't it? Let's be honest. International football is much slower. It's not comparable, is it? It really isn't. So I don't want people to be like, oh, well, he's good for them. Harry Maguire. If you're going off that logic, Harry Maguire should start every game for Manchester United. And if you actually look at the games that Scotland have played, right? So they're being touted as this incredible team. They're so good. They've played Cyprus. Name me one player somebody in the chat, name me one player who plays for Cyprus. I couldn't name you one. They played for Georgia. Is that where that guy from, what's he called? Is that where the guy from Napoli plays for? Yeah. So they played. So Scotland, when McTominay's been good, have played Cyprus, Georgia, Norway, which they only just beat, and that's it. So you can't sit there and say, oh, they're incredible, they're so good. Like, Cyprus teams are probably the quality of, like, not even the Europa Conference League, probably lower than that. They're probably like championship level teams. So for Scott McTominay to play well against a championship level team, does that not just show you that his level is a championship level side? Does that make sense? Like, if he'd just come off the back of beating Brazil, Argentina, France, and he was man of the match in all of those games at international level, then yeah, great. We could sit here and say, why does he play so well for Scotland? He's not very good for Manchester United. But the only side that he's faced that have been a proper side in the last 4 or 5 international games has been England, and we beat them 3-1. And they got 1 goal, which was a Harry Maguire own goal. So, I don't know. I don't really go for that whole thing, to be honest. International football is a completely different kettle of fish, and I only judge people on how they play for Manchester United because I support Manchester United. I don't support Scotland. Top Dog says maybe Eric Ten Hag has a plan to get rid of the Glazers. I don't think so, because to be honest with you guys, it's just as likely that it's just as likely that the Glazers will sack Erik ten Hag as it is that they'll leave, you know? Like, that is a possibility. Everybody's just joined in the last couple of minutes. Please do smash a like on the video. Please do subscribe to the channel. We're only 80 subscribers away from 19,000, so please do go and subscribe if you haven't already. Let's see if we can hit 19k by the end of today's video. Lean says, Ten Hag just can't unlock Scott McTominay. He's not good enough at coaching. Are we really having this debate about Scott McTominay? When has Scott McTominay ever been good for Manchester United? Really? He was rubbish when it was him and Fred as the two holding midfielders. And I don't remember him really being before that. I think that was kind of the start of his career. He scored a couple of goals. Generally, I would say that at best, he's a 5 out of 10. Like, he comes on the pitch, he does nothing, he ghosts away from the ball. He's not good enough. It's as simple as that. And I don't care if people say, oh, well, he's from the youth academy. Let's give him a chance. I mean, he's not like he's a 20-year-old anymore. He's what, 26, 27? He should be in his prime right now. And if anything, he's got worse over the last couple of years. He's not got any better. Yeah, he's 26. He's 27 next month. 27. It's not like he's a little baby anymore, and we're saying, "Oh, give him time." You know, he's going to come through, and he's got all of these years left in him. He's 27. He should be at his prime right now, and he's getting worse. So yeah. Anyway, let's move on to the next topic. So I wanted to talk a little bit about something that Paul Scholes was saying last night on TNT Sports, I think it was, and he was talking about Manchester United, and he was talking about what he thinks they'll do this season. And he says, I think it will be an identical season to last. United are a cup team. They are below this level. So I kind of agree, to be honest. I think our best chance of winning anything this season will be the League Cup maybe, and maybe the FA Cup. Because in those types of games, anything can happen. I think in the Champions League, we're way below the level that it needs to be. I know Bayern Munich are one of the favourites. So it's not like we've just gone and been beaten by some team from, I don't know, some country you've never heard of, and some team you've never heard of. Bayern Munich are one of the best teams in the world. Let's remind ourselves of that before everyone's, being super, super negative. Bayern are one of the best teams in the world. They are. There's a fact, okay? And when we saw that group being drawn, everyone thought Bayern, oh shit, that's going to be a hard game. So it's not like we've just gone and lost to Copenhagen. Obviously if that happens, then that'll be another whole conversation. But we still can qualify for the next round. I don't know. I don't want to sound negative, but it's you just know that when we come up against another difficult team, we're going to lose realistically. If we come up against a Real Madrid, imagine what will happen. If we come up against Man City in the competition, you know what's going to happen, So yeah, Paul Scholes says, I think they're a cup team. They can possibly win the FA Cup. They can possibly win the League Cup, but they're not at the level to compete in the Champions League yet. And I completely agree with that. I think any Manchester United fan would agree with that we're so far behind the Premier League teams, let alone the best teams in Europe in the Champions League. We're so far behind Real Madrid, so far behind Barcelona's. I mean, we beat Barcelona last season, but I think generally we've got worse over the last 6 months, haven't we? Our form has gone down. And Erik ten Hag has been talking about it as well, and he says, we're in a period where there is a lot going against us, but we have to keep going. If you can't keep going and following the rules, you will concede goals. And you know what? I will agree with that, because if you actually look at the goals that were scored last night, right? Onana, that shouldn't have been a goal, the first one. The second one, Diogo Dalot doesn't mark his man properly and lets him run past him. Probably shouldn't have been a goal if you're a proper football team. The penalty, in Europe, yes, that's a penalty, but it's pretty dodgy. In the Premier League, that wouldn't be given. Remember our penalty shout against Tottenham? Our player was further away than that yesterday, right? And we didn't get the penalty. So, but the thing you have to remember is the rules in the Champions League are different to the rules in the Premier League. If it hits your arm in the box, no matter how close you are, you could be literally this far away from each other, like that. Yeah, if it hits your arm, it's a penalty. Whereas in the Premier League, they have some sort of thing where if it's too close to the player, they don't give it. And then the last goal was a counter attack. So overall, all of those goals were probably avoidable. Realistically, it wasn't like they completely outclassed us. They didn't. As I said, I don't think Bayern played particularly well. Obviously, we didn't play particularly well, but we still lost, and that was what worried me the most. If they came and they completely blew us away and were unbelievable, then obviously you'd say they were the better team and all the rest of it. But I just think that we didn't have the mentality. Some of the players like Scott McTominay didn't even want to run back. And that just kind of sums it up for me. Right, let's see what people are saying. Darren says, we're going through a patch where there is poor form and injuries. If we get more players back and go on a good run, then top four and a cup is possible. Yeah, I think a cup is possible still. I think a League Cup, maybe an FA Cup. It all depends on what the draw is. Obviously, Manchester United play Crystal Palace in the first round of the League Cup, which is on, I think it's in like next week or something. We're at home. I would expect us to win that game. I don't know whether the FA Cup, no, the FA Cup hasn't been drawn yet. So yeah, we play Crystal Palace at home, which I would expect us to win in the League Cup. I mean, yeah, when you look at our form, it's so bad. I hate it when you go on like, you know, the fixture app websites and like it just, all you can see is LLLWL. 4 losses and 1 win in the last 5 matches. What else we got? Mal says we've lost to a Brighton B team and a managerless Bayern. Yeah. Yeah, I hear you, mate. I do. I hear you. Like, you've just got, the thing is, right, you've just got to take it with a bit of a pinch of salt in it. There's no point, like, obviously it's frustrating, obviously upsetting, but I think for me personally, I don't know when it was when it clicked, maybe under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, where I kind of just realised that we weren't a big club anymore. I kind of just lost that whole entitlement that I used to have as a Manchester United fan, where I used to think that we can go and beat any team. That's kind of gone now for me, personally. Like, maybe you think I'm being negative, but I'm just being honest. I think I was let down so many times by a lot of these players that I've kind of just dropped all expectations for Manchester United. I just watch it. Sometimes we win, sometimes we lose, but I don't have any expectations. Like genuinely, for this game against Burnley on Saturday, I'm not saying we're going to 100% win. I honestly would not be surprised if we lose. I wouldn't anymore. I'm not surprised by anything with Manchester United. Anything can happen. Whereas if it's Man City and they lost to Burnley, it would be like the biggest shock ever, wouldn't it? Let's see what else people are saying. Malp says, I don't know where we go from here, to be honest. I think all we can do is go from here is just try and build up a bit of like mentality, try and get the players to actually work hard, try and show us the fans that they care. Like that's the starting block. If they can do that, then maybe we can start moving forward. But yeah. So Eric Ten Hag says also, he says, it's about the team. Mistakes are being made, but you have to bounce back as a team. We have to believe we can always bounce back. If you stay in the game and fight, you can come back. Okay. Right, let's talk a little bit about the Glazers, a little bit about the takeover, because there was a couple of stories that came out yesterday. And the question I want to ask you guys to let me know in the comment section is, do you think that the poor run of fixtures will push the Glazers to sell the club? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section. I tell you what it will do, okay? Which might actually not be good for Manchester United and not be good for the sale. Apparently, I think it was Sky Sports who were reporting this yesterday. Apparently, both bidders are still in the race. They don't want to pull out, but they're not going to increase their offers because of what they've seen on the pitch so far. And the reason for that is because I think anybody who's watched Manchester United this season will see how much of a job it is to get us back to anywhere near to Man City, you know? Let alone building a new stadium, let alone clearing the debt, let alone new training facilities, you know. There's probably £4 or £5 billion that need to be spent just on a stadium, clearing the debt, you know, new training grounds and all the rest of it, let alone how much you need to spend on players, scouts, directors of football, CEOs and all the rest of the stuff. And I think that this story that came out, in the last couple of... So it says, Manchester United's poor start to the Premier League season is having a negative impact on the takeover process, with both interested parties now less likely to meet the owner's asking price. So obviously at the moment, the asking price is apparently north of 5 billion. So somewhere close to, you know, £5.5–6 billion. The Glazers obviously want more. But I mean, off the back of what we've seen so far this season, how on earth can the Glazers sit there and say they want more than 5 or 6 billion? The club's valued at about 3 or 4 on the stock exchange, and they want 5 or 6. Sorry, they want more than 5 or 6. It's absolutely ridiculous, and that's why I wanted to bring this bit into the show, because do you think that this maybe makes the Glazers think we have got a good offer here? They understand the magnitude of the job that needs to be done. They understand how much money they're going to have to spend if they do want to get us anywhere close to Man City's, Arsenal's, even, you know, the top teams at the moment. Hopefully this then convinces them to sell. That's all we can think. Al says that's good. Don't pay the Glazers any extra money. I mean, yes, it's good, but if they don't accept the offer and they say we're going to stay, then not only have we had a rubbish season, but the Glazers could stay, you know? So it's a double-edged sword. Maybe it works. But yeah, we'll have to wait and see. And then we've got a story coming out from Bloomberg as well, saying that the Manchester United takeover process will progress within the next few weeks. So there's lots of bits still coming out around the takeover. I think one of these days we're just going to get a massive story, and it's going to be like something's going to happen, because we need to get that now. We do. It's gone past the point of caring. Maybe it is having a negative effect on the players. That is a possibility. Yeah, let me know what you guys think. Let's see what everyone's saying in the comment section. Al says, didn't Qatar offer 5.5 billion? It's still a bit unsure at the moment. Most of the journalists just use this term. They say that the offers are north of 5 billion. So north means close to 6. But it doesn't seem like anybody knows the exact figure, because they're not going to know that. What else we got? Somebody says, unpopular opinion, but I think we had it good under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. Only post Sir Alex Ferguson manager to finish twice in the Champions League. Only manager to beat Pep 5 times. Also was unbeaten away a whole season and also beat PSG twice. The thing you have to remember there, though, mate, is when Ole Gunnar Solskjaer was doing well, there was no fans in the stadium. Like, it's not, you can't really compare it. You can't say Ole Gunnar Solskjaer was was disrespected. He was better than everyone makes he was. He was playing against teams where there wasn't a single fan in the stadium. It's like a friendly match, really, isn't it? It doesn't have the same atmosphere as Manchester United going away to the Emirates or going away to, St. James's Park or one of those stadiums where the atmosphere is, the atmosphere is like the 12th man for the team. So I get it. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer had a good record away from home, but playing against with no fans in the stadium, I don't think it's really a fair comparison. So I don't really agree with you, to be honest. Anthony says we need someone to deliver the balls into the box. Yesterday's game, Højlund just got one pass in the box he converted, or someone who can shoot like Paul Scholes. Yeah, I agree, mate. I do. I said this about Harry Kane the other day. I said, as much as I'd have liked Harry Kane to come to Manchester United, it would have probably been pointless because nobody seems to pass the ball into the box. As you say, we had one shot into the box yesterday and we scored. So yeah. The same person talking about Ollie says it was the same for all. Yeah, but the thing that I'm saying, right, is that you're comparing Ole Gunnar Solskjaer with other managers at Manchester United since Sir Alex Ferguson. But it's an unfair comparison because Mourinho, when he was here, he was playing with full stadiums. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, there was no one in the stadium. So for you to say, oh, well, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer got Champions League football for 2 years, Mourinho didn't. Well, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, there wasn't anybody in the stadium. So I don't think it's a good comparison, personally. Somebody says Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is better than Ten Hag. Somebody else says the disrespect towards Ole is just shocking. The thing that I don't like about Ole, right, as a player, I love him. I think he brought us one of the best memories of being a Manchester United fan in that Champions League final. But he didn't even coach the team. Like, how can you have a manager who clearly doesn't even have the football mind to be able to coach the team? It was Carragher? It wasn't Carragher. It was Carrick, McKenna, and I think there was somebody else. They were the people who coached the team. All that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer did was pick the team and stand on the sidelines and smile, and that was it. And for me, that's not a Manchester United manager. If you want to compliment them, right? Compliment Michael Carrick and McKenna, because they were the ones who were coaching the team. Those were the ones who were actually doing the training and doing all of the drills and all the rest of it. So if you want to, big up Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, then you need to big up those two, because all Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's job was to do was to smile, was to try and bring back the unity. Probably to rub the players' egos so they all thought they're better than they are, hence why we've got a load of people who think they're Ballon d'Or winners. Oh, there's another clip now as well. There's clips circulating of Marcus Rashford last night as well on Twitter, literally just walking around, literally like there's about 5 or 6 clips, right? The Bayern win the ball back, and Marcus Rashford's player just walks past him, and Rashford doesn't even try and get the ball. I mean, it's a disgrace, isn't it? Malp says Ollie got relegated for Cardiff, didn't he? Yeah, he did. He did. Anyway, let's move on to something else. What have we got? Paul says Carrick is doing a great job with Middlesbrough. Yeah, exactly. Al says, how would you rate Onana? Is he better than David De Gea, worth the money? I'll be honest with you, I didn't ever want David De Gea to go. I was getting abuse for it in the chat. People were saying, David De Gea is washed, get rid of him. And I said, you know what? I don't think signing David De Gea is a priority for me. Selling David De Gea, getting rid of him, whatever you want to call it. Obviously, I want Onana to come in and do well. I back him, but I don't think it was essential to spend, 50 million euros on a goalkeeper when we had a goalkeeper who's... Our problem last season was scoring goals. It wasn't conceding goals, it was scoring goals. Our defence was solid. We got the Golden Glove. So why did we need to go and get a goalkeeper? I don't know. It doesn't really make much sense to me. Right, let's see what we're saying. Somebody says last year Klopp didn't perform well. Nobody said things. Why on earth, when United performed badly, the whole world said this and that? Because we're the biggest club in the world. Whether we are by way of results on the pitch, we're the most talked about club in the world, aren't we? And as soon as Manchester United lose, it's headline news. There'll be people on TalkSport this morning saying Erik ten Hag's a disgrace. It's just it is what it is. Sean says, do you think it's a case of hanging in there until the players are available and we can change things up? I know this season has been frustrating, but we can't panic. There's time to turn this around. Yeah, I guess so, mate. Like, I don't know. I think you've just got to be realistic about it, to be honest. I think 5th or 6th would be good now, considering where we are at this point. I know we're only 5 games into the season, but there's no way we're going to win the league, really, are we? We've lost 3 games in the Prem already. Man City will not lose 3 games. Have we lost 3 or 4? Tottenham, Arsenal, Brighton. Yeah, we lost 3 games. I highly doubt Man City will lose 3 games all season. So we're not going to win the league. I don't think Arsenal will lose 3 games all season. I think top 4 will be very difficult. But obviously, as I've said to you guys before, apparently if you finish 5th, you get Champions League football now. So that has to be the target. Finish 5th and hopefully move on from there. Right, I'm going to wrap the video up here, guys. I will be back live at 6 p.m. today for another live show like this. Please do make sure to smash a like on the video. Please do subscribe to the channel if you are new. We're on the road to 19k subscribers. We're 78 subscribers away from 19k, so please do subscribe if you haven't already. This has been Daily Red Devil. I've been Kieran, and I'll catch you all later.